Hey everybody, I'm Tim here with an unsmokable cigar, and you're watching Cigars Daily. I want to invite you to watch this and all our videos now on cigarsdailyplus.com because we're always working to make it better on Cigars Daily Plus. You haven't lived until you've gone into your kitchen to get a knife and the knife drawer won't open because the spatula decided that it's going to stick to the top of the drawer. You yank on it, you shout at it, and for some reason you're angry at this inanimate object. You cuss at it a lot, your kids hear you, they're traumatized for life, and all because you wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just one of those things that sort of happens. And certainly in the world of cigars, the same crap goes on, especially when you get a cigar that's got no draw, just like pulling on that kitchen drawer that won't come out, that bastard. And the cigar that won't draw gives you the same experience. You just want to get that tasty flavor out of the cigar, but no, you can hold the lighter up to the foot and you won't get anything out of it. This is a cigar I found in the HQ here that won't draw at all. This thing is completely plugged right now, and it's something that happens from time to time, and I'm actually pretty impressed right now because I've been wanting to do this video for weeks. This is the first time I've found a stick that won't draw, so pretty impressed about it, but this will happen with just about any manufacturer. Some of them draw test every single cigar before it goes out of the factory, but it's a far cry from everybody doing it, so you'll find sticks with no draw here and there, pretty much anywhere you go. But fortunately, there are a lot of great solutions out there, and today I want to look at one that's actually touted as the best draw creating solution, and that's the PerfecDraw. They're the same company that makes the cigar glue that I actually reviewed on the channel a couple weeks ago. And today I get to take this thing for a spin. I want to see if this can really do what it advertises. Open up the draw on a cigar that's impossible to draw, and as the owner Rod Cathy says, also help create a better draw, maybe on a cigar that's just a little bit too tight. So I got another stick here I tried to light up yesterday, and the draw is there. I mean, you could physically smoke it, but your cheeks would hurt at the end, like you were at a hilarious show or something like that and laughing too much. This thing has just got a really tight draw and not enough smoke comes out. So I'm gonna put these two through the ringer today and see if this thing can really give me what I want, which is that PerfecDraw on a couple cigars that I know I really like. But first, I want to take you through some of how you use this thing because there's a few small things to know. The good news is this thing is actually exceedingly easy to use. The few things that you need to know about it aren't really all that complicated either. So I'm going to kick it off with a couple of these unbanded sticks, which I haven't even cut. I don't know if they have a good draw or a bad draw or what, but the principle is basically the same. And of course, the creator of the PerfecDraw has said that this is not just for plugged cigars. It's also for sticks where maybe the draw is just a little bit tighter than you want it to be. There's a way to loosen up the draw in a cigar that's still drawing well, but you just want it to be a little easier or a little less resistant. So let me take you inside this ashtray to show you sort of how to use this thing. So what I've got here is this bundled cigar, and I'm going to cut it just to get an idea of really what the draw is actually like here. It doesn't feel terribly dense. It doesn't feel like there's any knots in this thing. Actually, a pretty decent draw, although I could loosen it up a little bit. Now the cap of the PerfecDraw screws right off and the whole tool fits with inside of this sheath right here. As you can see, this thing comes with little barbs on the tip of the tool, which are great for pulling out tobacco to ease up and open up the draw. And they don't go all the way up the sort of shaft of the tool. And again, they don't need to. The goal isn't to kill the cigar, it's just to open up draw. To use the thing, you're going to turn it in like a clockwise motion as you drive it into the end of the cigar, and really you just want to get those barbs in there at first. Then you pull it straight out, and that will remove tobacco. You can even see it here on the end of the actual PerfecDraw. It's already opened up a little bit, but I'm going to keep drawing a little further because if you've got a knot and it's further down in the cigar, sometimes you got to go back. So I'm going to take this just a little bit further, turning in that clockwise rotation, and then pull it out again. And each time it just pulls out these little flakes of like shredded tobacco that fall out into the ashtray. So you want to be mindful about that too. I'm going to go in a little bit further now even because these knots can happen most often. A bad draw or a knot is behind the band of a cigar, but they can even happen further down the shaft as well. And so those are the basic tenets of the thing. Like, you want to make sure that you get it in evenly, because if the thing goes in at an angle, it's going to come out the side, and that will ruin your cigar, or you'll be turning to your cigar glue to try to fix a thing. And I'm pretty sure I stabbed a hole in my finger while I was actually coming out of the side of this. So going straight in and straight out is a big deal here. But at the same time, I'm noticing that it does create that easier draw. Even a cigar that didn't have a bad draw before, the draw gets easier the further I put this thing in there and pull it out. So if you like a really easy draw, this is probably not just a tool of necessity, it's one you'll want to have with you anytime you're smoking. And then there's the question of what to do if you've already lit up your cigar and the draw gets tight as you're smoking. This isn't terribly common. It doesn't happen to me very often, but it does happen. And this is when the heat from the cherry of the cigar heats up the leaves, their pores open up, and they release humidity into the cigar. And if those air channels were already tight, they can become constricted. The big thing to know about this is it's unbelievably simple. You're going to do the same steps that you did with using the PerfecDraw on an unlit cigar. You're going to take it just a little bit more slowly because there's already stuff going on inside in terms of temperature. You start by inserting the PerfecDraw just down to the edge of those little throngs there, and then see if you can open up the draw, go a little bit further and a little bit further until you get the desired draw. It's not really all that complicated, but something that's good to know. Slow down if you've already lit your cigar, because you can, again, go straight through the side of the thing, jab yourself in the hand, and then howl like a weird dog. And another big thing to know about this is it works really well on thin ringed cigars like the Filthy Viking Lancero here. This is a 38 ring, quite a bit thinner than a traditional Robusto, but the principles are all the same. The only thing you got to watch out for as that ring gauge gets smaller and smaller is to make sure that you are inserting at a perfectly straight level. If you're off at an angle, you're going to actually slam this through the side of the cigar and probably into your hand. Again, that's something you got to be careful about. I found that the tip of this thing is unbelievably sharp. Another little fun fact to know before you start using it. And so that brings me to my two cigars here. One that's completely plugged and has absolutely no draw, and the other where the draw is just a little bit tighter than I want it to be. This is where I really want to put this thing to the test, because the rest of these cigars haven't had a terrible draw. I was able to loosen the draw, but really wasn't able to bring them back from something I couldn't smoke. I'll start with the one that's entirely plugged, and just to show you this, I'm gonna light the thing so you can see that not a lot of smoke comes out. So a sure sign that a cigar has a bad draw, even if you're the one not smoking it, you see somebody, if thin smoke is coming out of their mouth and it's not really billowing out, it's a good sign they're sucking way too hard on that. And so I've already lit this thing up, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful at it, but I'm going to start with just the prescribed steps to see if I can get this opened up, or really how far into this thing I got to go to get it going. This thing does also pull some out of the end sometimes. There's a little cleanup work to do. Okay, so literally just putting in the first inch of this thing did the job. To guys, that's totally counterintuitive. Ram the whole rod in there, man. No, this thing actually opened up the draw on this really nicely. Now, this cigar's drawing great. And all I had to do was that first step of just inserting the tip in there. Just the tip seems to work. That's absolutely amazing. I cannot believe that it did that quickly. I was sure that I was going to be sitting here working harder than that to get this done. Okay, so it definitely works in terms of getting draw from a cigar that won't draw. And again, that's because that knot was sitting right back up here near the cap within the first inch or so, or close to where the band is. That's what I find to be the thing most of the time when you've got a bad draw on a cigar, is it's behind the ring or above the ring. Now, what about a cigar that this one right here just draws tighter than I want it to? I'm going to light that bad boy up so you can see sort of how much smoke comes out of this as well. So this one definitely draws better. And I think that some people would say this is like fine. Like they wouldn't worry about it at all. But there's a difference in preference on that everywhere. Everybody likes a different resistance. What's too hard of a draw for some people is perfect for others. And what's perfect for some people is way too loose of a draw for others. Still not getting a lot of smoke out of this thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just follow the steps again. Just use the right up to the barbs here. I got to say, the draw is definitely still tighter than I want it to be. So I'm going to keep going an extra inch and see what we get. Now I'm already lit, so I'm trying to be very careful as I go, and I'm just pulling out tons of tobacco here. All right, this time I'm going to go fully to the hilt on this thing. We're going in completely straight. Ooh, I've actually popped off the cherry on this short cigar, which is fine, because now I know I've got a draw channel that goes all the way through here. Take a look at that right there. All right, now I'm going to pull this back out. Now there should be a really good singular channel through here at the very least. I'm going to relight it. That's the stuff right there. Okay, so what was a really hard draw is now opened up and eased up quite a bit. This cigar that I opened yesterday and was really looking forward to smoking, I can actually enjoy now. So the thing seems to be burning pretty evenly, even though I think I've only got one channel for air to come through this, still getting a nice even burn. And I'm really surprised that it took more work with this right here than it did with a cigar that was completely plugged. Like this thing was like just plug it, unplug it, and plug it back in and it'll work. This thing was a little bit more work, and so it seems like really maybe even there are no two cigars that are going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a little more work with some than it is with others, but I gotta say, there are a lot of draw poker, draw creating, channeling, tunneling tools out there. I like this one a lot. The guy who made it, Rod, he's actually a dentist. So coming up with instruments like this that do really small tasks really well is something he's acquainted with. And he has got a huge point for this. If you get one of these, have a soft brush, like a soft bristle toothbrush on hand, because you can actually brush off the blades of this thing, or the throngs, or the whatever you want to call it, the spikes on it, and make sure that it stays clean, because it does pull quite a bit of tobacco out of the end. Every time I pull it out of here, it's just completely covered in leaf again. So guys, I gotta say, as far as a draw channeling tool, the PerfecDraw has done a great job. There is some inconsistency from cigar to cigar in what you're gonna get out of it, but I'll tell you, for a guy who screams and cusses at the top of his lungs when he can't open a drawer in his kitchen, this thing gives me the ability to get a draw out of a cigar that I otherwise would have had to throw in the trash. And truly, by keeping one of these by my desk, I know that I'll have had the last bad drawing cigar I'm ever gonna have. I'll always be able to open them up and get a great experience out of any cigar, especially the ones that you spend your money on. Huge deal. All right, guys, but I want to hear from you too. If you have a draw tool or a draw poker or the PerfecDraw, drop a comment down below with your experience. Like, what have you used it for? Has it worked well for you, especially if you've used the PerfecDraw? And I want to invite you to check this video out on cigarsdailyplus.com, because we're always working to make it better on Cigars Daily Plus. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.